There is, I think, also a transformation occurring toward personalizing the coverage, and this, I think, is a fairly new phenomenon. That is to say, we're recasting the traditional roles. Now, if I asked the prosecutors from the Peterson case, who was the victim, I suspect you'd say, of course, Lacey. Looking at it from law enforcement, she was the murder victim. But I'd venture to say that she became, while the victim of the crime, she became the heroine of the story. She was white, she was pretty, she was pregnant, she was the heroine. And in turn, Sharon, the mother, became the victim, somebody who was living, walking, breathing, talking. And in turn, even, excuse me, to borrow Mark's comment of the strumpet, even Amber became a victim of Scott and was, instead of being seen as that other woman, became cast in the media as a victim as well, and we embrace victims. Same thing I'd offer for your considerations happening in the Aruba case. It's not so much that Natalie Hollowell is the victim, but rather the mother is the victim as far as the media is perceived. And TV becomes her champion, fighting for her, fighting for justice. So in this new role, the media becomes, in self-perception, the investigator, the inquisitor, the expert, the interpreter. And we destroy and create myths, sometimes as quickly as the next news cycle. So indeed, there is this saturation, there is niche coverage, there is polling. All of this is absolutely soaring. Karen asked if the world is flat, if there's more of everything. Well, certainly there's more media, there's more talk, there's certainly more shock jock. It does seem as though there's less news, and we've commented a lot about that over the last 2 days. I'm not sure if that's entirely true, and I think a very strong argument can be made that there's still a lot of very strong and very important traditional journalism being made. While you are all rightly annoyed by the shows like Nancy Grace et al., they really do represent a fragment of the total audience. Nancy has about 1 million viewers on a good day. Greta has perhaps 1.3. She got as high as 2.3 during Aruba, when incidentally Fox saturated that story with more than 30 to 35 people week in and week out looking for, being the investigator, being the inquisitor. It's easy to be distracted watching these anchors as they rush from the backyard of the runaway bride to Aruba, to Rita, to Katrina, or wherever they think the market for the story is going to be. If you really do want to be concerned about news, there are things that are worthy of your consideration. Network newscasts have now reduced the average length of a soundbite, of a piece of sound from somebody in the story from what was a number of years ago up to 22 seconds. It now runs about an average of 8 seconds. Think about it, 8 seconds. That was about 8 seconds. The average age of newspaper readers is now 53. Baby boomers read 1/3 less than their parents. Gen X read 1/3 less than baby boomers. I'm not quite sure who's left. In terms of looking at Karen's quadrant of reimagining, websites and blogs are important. They're growing. More than 1,500 dailies have them. EveryNet, many network reporters. Greta individually has her own blog. The Washington Post now claims about 10.4 million unique users monthly. The New York Times, just slightly more than that, 12.5. If you think that's where, if you remember the old line of follow the money, follow Murdoch's money. He plunked down $1.3 billion this summer to buy a combination of websites. You can clearly see that's where he thinks the future is. The democratization of the web, podcasting, which we haven't even talked about, does argue for many more voices, individuals, its access, its advocacy, blogs. They are unedited. There's a bit of a cacophony as a result. Coming to a close out of all this, the problem, the core of the problem that I see it is to a legal world which values process. This media swirl in this changing media environment, which even many of us in the media don't have our hands truly wrapped around, that world appears unfocused, unprofessional, discordant, and ultimately threatening. To a legal world which values methodical and deliberate action, The media, in my experience as the coordinator, is often perceived as unpredictable, unreliable, inconsistent, and dangerous. Those are the chasms I think we really have to, those are the two sides of the chasms that I see.